Hello, you beautiful beings out there, and welcome to the stream. I am RAOW Sim, and today we are working on the RAOW system again. This is our custom tabletop system for playing, well, like it says there, role-playing animals in other worlds. It is meant for people to be able to play Pokemon, Digimon, monsters from Monster Hunter, and all sorts of other things that they could implement in here. But let us get started on the work. Today in particular, we're going to be working on the move costs and the weather effects some more. Because while I like the weather effects from Pokemon, I'm revamping them. What's up, Rygon?
My weather table.
Not quite like that.
Yes, black hole, please.
No.
Randomly roll. Do you get light drizzle, or do you get end of the world? Who knows?
We are not doing that.
Oh. It's okay, black hole one day.
Asher, I hope you take care of yourself. And hello there, I do things. Good to see you. To be fair, I am random on whether I start this early, I do things, or if I wait, because my streams are technically supposed to start at 6 p.m. Central. It's currently 3 p.m.
Rawr.
Truly, this is the dankest dungeon.
Things tipped $5 for the doggo.
Thank you very much for that tip. I do things. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we are trying to raise money. My 3D artist that I manage for, his doggo is not doing well. I'd share the images, but they are graphic. If you want to see them privately, message me on Discord and I will send the least graphic one that there is. But yeah. It's he's needing some help with vet bills. I will say he only needs $35. However, I'm going for 100 for him because he, I know that he is struggling on other fronts and is, he's struggling on other fronts and I know he's already paid towards this as is, so yeah. Also, tips, it's going to be $2.50 for increasing the September goals.
This is the dankest dungeon.
Rygon plays tipped $5.
Thank you very much, Rygon.
Also for the bumper. Just because I don't have a lot to give doesn't mean I don't have at least a little bit I can give.
Hey, every little bit counts and builds up.
Exactly. I wish more people understood that. You know, your $1 can mean a lot.
Endowment.
It does.
Tanya Sapien tipped $25.
Tanya, thank you as well for that tip. Well, that's enough to get the doggo's bills covered, but I'm pretty sure he didn't say it outright, but I know that he definitely has spent some extra money on this already. He was just short by 35.
Kenku cheered with 251 eggy bitties.
Thank you for the biddies as well, Kenku. Alright, let me catch up a little bit real quick. Okay, so we got 2 points from I Do Things. We got 2 points from Rygon. This actually needs to be... max is 20 instead. 25. That would be 10. And then the biddies is another point. So we're 2 points away from the next September goal of Jackbox Party Pack streams. Hey there, Jits. And thank you all so much for helping out on this. I really appreciate it. Jackbox streams have always scared me, Jits, because Twitch, I've seen people be, really, really bad with that. But, yeah, you guys unlock it, and we'll go with it. I'm not so worried about that sort of thing, Rygon, so much as, well... other people.
Trust me, I get what you're talking about. I'd say for Jackbox Party Pack streams, just simply keep them to people who, you know, have been a part of the community for at least a while, and you know you can probably trust them. Instead of just randos.
Yeah.
Like, nothing against people who just popped into the stream and want to join. It's just we can't really rely on them, and for Zim here, this is a part of his career. This is what he does for a living, and he can't afford to get banned by Twitch because of some rando.
Hey there, Era. Good to see you, and hi, Sanri, if I didn't say that to you yet.
Well,
also,
I guess I might start up my stream then. Go ahead.
Kenku, what was your arid suggestion? I got a lot of stuff thrown at me recently, so I might have missed it. Oh, penalty to integrity to non-ground Pokemon? I don't know if I'll do that for Arid. Alright, Asher, see you soon. Era, my 3D artist, doggo is... They're not doing well. I'd share the pictures, but they are rather graphic. But he does need some help, so I'm trying to raise some funds to help him. You can do so through this link right here. He lives in Venezuela, so unfortunately, sending money directly to him, every one of them has a $5 flat fee on top of the regular PayPal fees. So, yeah, that's why I'm raising the money to send to him in a bulk rather than, you know, people sending $5 to him and PayPal consuming all of it with fees.
magnanimous dispensation.
Drunk_dragon_era tipped $105.
Oh! Holy crap!
Well, that's very much appreciated, Drunk.
Era, thank you so much. Yeah, it's really appreciated. Well, that's definitely going to be a lot of money on this. Thank you so much. Or a lot of points on this goal, on these goals. Holy crap, thank you so much. Holy crap, that is 42 points, which is going to complete the next 3 goals. So we're going to have Jackbox Party Pack streams, monthly movie days, and VR chat streams. And we are at 0 for the next goal.
No.
Kenku, I'm actually, for the doggo, I reduced it to $2.50 per point instead of the $3 for the doggo. But now it's going to be back to the $3. But thank you so much. For those that tipped, do send me some details on Discord, as well as your tip amount, just to make sure. Because that will get you on the doodle page. Or, in your case, Era, probably a bit more than that. But yeah. Details for that info are in ZGF Art channel on the Discord. Check the pinned messages. Please get me info today so we can get that going.
You'll probably have to remind me here in a bit then.
Well, I thank you for it, Era. It's an option for you guys, but thank you for supporting and helping out with that.
Yeah, of course. I want a different station. Anyway, I started up my stream.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going to work on my book today. So
Sounds
probably nothing
good.
super exciting, but, you know, we can give everyone the choice of either watching you do that or me do something incredibly similar, but slightly different. Choices, they matter, don't they?
Yep. Seda!
No. Not that. Oh.
Hello,
Kenku?
Charlotte.
Not Shad. Chill. Not shout. Not shout. No. No.
Random fan, every time you come into my channel, you ask me that exact same question. I'll let you decide if I remember you or not.
Betrayal can never be forgiven.
I'm sorry your phone's been broken. Good to see you though.
See you later, Era.
See ya, Era. Thank you again for all your support to my friend.
Have to say, by Bermuda standards, I'm still early.
Oh, good to see that you're safe, Seda.
Yeah.
You still getting any remaining storm left? Or is that all said and done now?
It's all said and done now.
Good, good.
So we had Franklin pass by Wednesday, so we started feeling a little bit of the winds on Tuesday, and by Wednesday afternoon it was at its strongest, but it was still thankfully pretty light.
Okay.
I mean, light enough that British Airways still landed their plane in 38-mile-an-hour crosswinds. Bless. And then Thursday and Friday were just a little bit breezy, but just by Saturday it really picked up. So we had a bit actually stronger winds from post tropical cyclone Adalia, and then it cleared out by basically Sunday morning, the tropical storm condition. So
Yay. Well, I'm glad to see that you're safe.
Alright. Sorry about that. Also, hello there, Dustcorn. Ah, yes, another status effect I was going to put in. Wounded. I did include a diseased effect, which is something that will be a long-term kind of status effect rather than something that'll actually be useful in a battle. Hey, somebody's a mink. I approve. And now they're a duck. Definitely taking a step back there, huh? Okay, moose. I'm pretty sure that's Seda.
What? Me? No.
And now you're a wombat. And now you're a trash panda.
You know what? I haven't been a raccoon in a while, or actually, no, I haven't been a raccoon at all yet. So you know, we'll take this.
And then we get a Loris.
That's not me.
I like that.
No, it's not you.
That's me. Me.
Hail Seda, king of the trash.
Maybe this was a bad idea.
Oh, hey, a Wolverine.
Not feeling it.
What, just because it's a freaking mustelid? Well,
I
fine,
didn't say
now you're a
that.
dragon.
Oh, this fair is fair.
I will say
Actually,
the icon
my-
looks like
Yeah, that icon is a noodle dragon.
it's not even a noodle. It's more like a worm. No, no limbs at all. Just a head, a snake body, and a spiked tail.
It's labeled dragon. It looks like noodle dragon.
There.
Rock just randomly in midair. Let's try creating a few more. Fantasy city with a giant dam with a waterfall coming out of it set into the side of a canyon cliff. That's what I gave the AI prompt. It's like, it's trying its darndest. Bless its little machine art.
Jeez, coming up with these weather effects is leading me to many new status effects.
No, that was not too bad. Okay. Been about 10 minutes. Let's go ahead and get to the main.
As a bit of a shower thought, Zim.
Yes.
Would it be too complicated to actually expand upon the wounded system in a sense? And give each of your existing status conditions a lingering effect if it's appropriate? Kind of like give wounded basically different flavors. But as opposed to having a big list for wounded, put them underneath the different sections.
So the wounded, I was planning to do a basic list of body parts as examples for what might constitute a wound, and a basically debuff for that part being wounded. Like, for example, the main reason I'm writing this is for the jagged weather effect for rock types. Having a chance to cause a wound to the feet or paws, which would reduce the movement speed until it heals. as for long-term effects, I am all for that. It's just, like, sleep itself, I don't see anything for that. Poison
I feel
in
like sleep-
particular... Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I feel like sleep kind of like falls into like that kind of drowsy idea where it's like, I feel like those two are the same coin, but I could see like, you know,
Well, sleep does end any drowsy effect.
Yep.
Also, something I should add to sleep is...
I don't know. I don't know if I believe that. Sometimes when I wake up, I'm still drowsy.
Well, yeah, but when you wake up, you're no longer under the effects of sleep.
Have you tried getting hit with a
Touche.
wake up slap? I believe it's more of a smack smack.
Oh, smack, smack. Kind of reminds me of that one meme that had went around where this lady, it was from like an old timey movie where she just straight up slaps her husband sleeping in the bed and then like starts like, "Oh honey, you were having a bad dream." And the guy is just like sitting right there and he's just like holding his cheek. He's like, what happened? That was a good smack too. It's like she actually smacked him. Let's see what else. Oh, that's not a bad one right there. Yeah. I like that one too. I just wish there was more buildings. Hey, RZ.
RZ.
Oh. Good to see ya.
How is all?
Oh, doing all right. Could be better, but doing all right.
Hey, Abby. Hi, Arzy.
Well, I'm gonna snuggle V and then everyone else in the call.
Yay.
Yay. Snuggle, snuggle, snuggle.
Including Seda, including Tanya, including William.
Yay.
I'm gonna snuggle with Vector.
I am apparently left out of this. Okay.
I thought I
Yes,
snuggled
there
you
are
too.
several cuties and floofs here. Abby. Oh, alright, Duscorn, sleep well. But Abby, you're a cutie too.
So, what is everyone up to? I know Zim's working on RAOW. Varigon also was doing...
Working on Refuge. I'm trying to get a good picture for the Gate of Tears.
Fair enough.
Mostly chilling. Doing an RPG with someone I haven't done in a while, but mostly chilling.
That's
I
fair.
think I'm gonna go get some more spaghetti. I'll be right back.
Spaghetti.
Yeah, I made some last night.
There, I made a few adjustments to sleep and drowsy. Namely, you can attempt to resist sleep every turn instead of having to be assisted or attacked. However, if you do wake up on your own, you'll be under the effects of drowsy. And then for drowsy, you have a harder time resisting sleep effects.
Yeah, makes sense.
Fair. It sounds like the goal is still to have someone assist you.
Well, waking up
Sometimes
on
you
your
just-
own is usually pretty difficult. Hence the reason for alarm clocks.
Okay, look, now I'm gonna have to disagree with that. Waking up with Abby is very difficult because neither of us want to leave the bed.
I mean,
I-
not wanting to leave the bed is different from waking up there.
Yeah, you see, when I wake up, I'm awake. I just don't want to get out of bed because I'm on my phone. Usually it's a call of something like, you want to go fishing. It wakes you up. And it makes you want to get out of bed and go do something.
Okay, got it. Make the bed explode.
Wait, please don't make my bed explode, okay? This mortal house is very not suited for that. Please?
Science!
There we go.
Well, do
Apparently
it to someone
voice-
else. Oh,
Apparently,
Tanya?
voice mod had
Tanya.
crashed. I wondered why it was people kept talking over me. It was because I wasn't broadcasting.
Oh,
When you're asking what we were doing, I was saying that I was working on coming down with something. So you probably shouldn't snuggle me.
you get a spiritual hug.
I will infect your soul.
I'm sorry, the soul cannot be infected.
Bet.
I think I might be coming down with something myself.
Yep. See, he interacted with me too much. He got sick.
No, I'm blaming Taldarius.
Okay,
What
that's
did he
fair.
do?
Let's blame Tildarius for everything.
Because he was sick and we all, did game with him yesterday, so...
Okay.
I do things, yes, that was, the enemy was a building, but the building is basically a spawner for more enemies. But, Seda, as far as the wounds versus other effects go, I do kind of want, like some of these I definitely could see having long-term effects.
Yeah, like I'm
burn and such, frostbite.
Frostbite sucks.
Yeah, like, I could see, for example, like, a long-term poison effect impacting your, giving you maybe a small negative modifier to your vigor. A frozen lingering effect, basically chilled, makes you slower. Burn might give you a penalty to your body. Just because obviously, maybe doing stuff with it hurts when you have burns. Like persistent burns.
Oh yeah.
Um,
But, so the problem there, like, I'm personally a fan of long-term things like that in tabletop games because they make sense. You break your arm, it's gonna have impacts long-term. However, I will say that a lot of players are not fond of those kinds of mechanics. Because I've tried to, I've tried to implement it before, and it's not gone over well.
Yeah,
the
there's a
optional
reason
rules, then.
why.
yeah,
There's a
'cause
reason why. There's a reason why most systems have some form of magical healing, because there's a lot of people that don't like that sort of commitment.
Yeah, and I
In
mean,
fact,
like
some systems are specifically oriented for survival. Go ahead.
yeah, and it's understandably, people don't like playing with like, half their dice because of X thing they can't address. So it's probably just something to keep like a pinned idea on, because on one side, like, yeah, like, if you want to like have like something that affects you out of combat, then yeah, like, then why don't go crazy with it? But at the same time, it either needs to be so minor that you can deal with it, but also probably readily easily dealt with at the same time, so that like it doesn't turn into the I've had this burn for 20 days now and it's not healed, because like the healing condition was me to like get like 8 hours of sleep, and the fires just keep
Oh
on
god,
coming and
that's
we have to run.
impossible. If you had to get 8 hours of sleep to fix something, yeah, that's just never happening. You're stuck with that for the rest of your life.
So yeah, no, it's
Right, stuck with what for the rest of your life?
yes.
No, stuck with what for the rest of your life? I didn't hear it.
Yes.
Yes.
What doesn't matter, the status effect.
Yeah.
Any status
Oh.
effect.
Yeah, no, we were making the joke of like if you needed anything to heal by requiring 8 hours of sleep to heal, then like you'd just be stuck with it for the rest of your life.
Also, somebody has been turned into a pumpkin.
Yeah, I opened up the RAOW system in another tab just so I could actually like look at like the stats, so I can like actually more accurately suggest like, hey, maybe poison does this and burn does this, as opposed to just pulling names out of my butt.
But out of us is fun.
But you know what? We'll science this.
Ah, you're a rhino.
I've not been a rhino yet.
Yay! Assault unicorn.
Assault unicorn. Oh, Rhino is an assault. Okay. It took me a fat minute.
No.
Alright, I am adding to Frozen 3 that there's a 20% chance per turn to suffer the frostbite effect.
And just to kind of like sink my own point a little bit, because I'm also like I just have an idea and I toss it out because hey, it might be a good idea, it might be a bad idea, but at the same time, from a like gameplay philosophy standpoint, sure, we could implement all these systems where, yeah, we can measure how much you've been straining your wrist because you've been drawing too much, or playing too many video games, and you have to take X amount of rest to have it all recover. But tabletops at the end of the day should be fun. They shouldn't be management games. So if, for example, let's just say your body will get over a long-term poisoned effect after 2 days, well, now you have to set up a means in your character sheet to track the 2 days, and there's going to be confusion at the table of like, okay, hey, has it been 2 days since that last combat thing where I got badly poisoned? Can I take off this negative modifier? And that kind of like, I guess, like paper keeping,
Micromanagement.
yeah. Does it add to the like there's a very fine line between adding something for depth but also keeping it fun. So I'm kind of on the fence if it's like a good idea or not, but I figured it's an idea to toss out anyway because, hey, like, why not? Like, is taking that next step good or bad? Because taking the next step might send you into a field of flowers or might send you off a cliff. Who knows?
Who knows?
Banzai.
Yeah, it's something that I personally... I personally prefer to have it. However, I can understand why some people are not not in favor of such a thing. But at the same time, like with some of these, you've got like for the poison, the polluted weather effect. It's only at intensity 3 where you have a chance per turn to suffer the diseased effect. Which diseased in particular will... that is one that can kill your character. But it could also make some interesting, story elements of having to go find a particular herb or something to cure it. Or you can just write it off.
It might be something. You finish up, please.
I am going to put in a note, like an alternative rule for each of these, and put in a note that some players are just not fond of long-term effects, and so there can be an alternative rule set that storytellers can use if their table does not like that.
Yeah, exactly. I would definitely probably just put in as part of that note, like, make sure you have that conversation with your players, and that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would actually, from an organizational standpoint, I would actually be in favor of just having, after your status effects, you can have optional, lingering status effects. For those games that want to have an additional challenge, you can implement this optional rule set to have lingering status effects. A poison doesn't necessarily have to heal overnight. It could have a longer duration that exceeds, combat. So discuss with your players if you like to implement this additional challenge, but it's not required to run a game.
Yeah.
So, you can kind of, expand upon that, but, you can kind of, leave that up to the table. So you're not necessarily building the system around that, but being like, hey, do you like putting pepper on your chocolate cake? Well, here you go.
Pepper? I think I finally found an image here that might work for a decent default image for the Gate of Tears. It took the AI forever to finally build a freaking city on top of a dam, which is all I wanted it to do.
Yeah, I've unfortunately tasted spiced chocolate. I'm not a fan. No disrespect to people who actually like spicy chocolate, but I'm not a spicy chocolate person.
It's got its place.
That's fair.
Hey, Marks and Cute Faith. Sorry if I didn't say something a little bit earlier. Everyone was just kind of chit-chatting, and I didn't want to interrupt.
I'm going to put a pin in the long-term status effects. Because I do want to focus on getting the basis of stuff down first, and then I can come back to those long-term things and get them codified.
Yeah, and actually let me just add a little note there to that.
This one looks pretty good too. Doesn't quite have that dam aspect.
Yeah, I just added just a note in there, optional expansion to status effects. I think it's a good idea, but it's not a super important idea to actually get it up and running.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Waiting for it to upload. Here we go. No,
I
not
do.
that one.
I do worry that the steel weather effect is too much.
Let's take a look.
Oh, mother of! I pushed the wrong combination.
It will now self-destruct.
Yep.
Let's have some more variations.
No, okay. I need a 50 before I can buy more. Oh,
This one might not be too bad.
So, healing in this system, that is one that I have been uncertain of because it's definitely something that that needs to have a. It has to have a limit. Otherwise, if there's no limit on it of some kind, it makes the system just, yeah, it's one person that knows how to heal, and they can just heal all day long, and there's no downsides. I'm thinking that we'll utilize the exhaustion system for it. Like, you can use your heals, but it will cause the user to suffer exhaustion. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Why not a PP system?
Because nothing else has that, and, none of the other moves have the PowerPoint system. And in addition to that, other franchises just don't have that sort of thing, period, either.
Okay. An exhaustion system might not be too bad then. Go ahead, Seda.
Have you thought about a focus-like system? Where maybe an ability is so powerful that if you were to try to do something else, that you would have to end that effect?
Is that simple to like a charging move?
Well, not necessarily. Like, what I'm kind of getting at is, like, let's say I use a levitating ability and I lift Azurth off the ground because I decide to magnetize the scales. I wouldn't necessarily be able to use a pellet shock because, hey, if I stop focusing, I'm going to drop Azurth off this cliff.
Please don't drop me off cliff, please.
That's why I'm not using pellet shot. Okay, here we're going to let you down gently.
So that would be a concentration thing, which absolutely we can have. However, I'm talking about just healing in general. Something that, not necessarily just healing over time, but like a burst heal of some sort.
I would say you can probably have that scaled to the level, like because I don't see any reason why you can't just say, hey, have minimum 1 HP healing, minimum 2 HP healing, minimum 3 HP healing for your level 1, 2, 3, because the way that I also want to look at the weather system in that regard is weather, at least in this sense.
One sec. I want to clarify, this is not just the weather system. I am asking about healing overall. I want to figure out healing overall, not just in regards to like what I was writing with the grass one. Because from there, I can then figure out how I might want it to work in the weather effect.
Okay. Healing in terms of...
Like, I know Chansey's got that, soft-boiled, I think it is, or something like that. Gives the Pokemon an egg and heals some HP. You got things like Rest.
Heal Pulse.
You know,
Recover.
I mean, you have the exhaustion system in there, so I would probably say utilize that.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm debating
but
if
I
I
would-
want it to be just the exhaustion system itself, or if I want to also limit it to how many vigor points they have.
I mean, actually, I think not a bad idea. Incorporating Jit's suggestion in there is make the healing. If you're using it from a spellcaster perspective, make the healing. Let's just say a dice roll. So let's say D10 minus your exhaustion. Just as a initial idea to toss it out there, where you're kind of baking in the depreciating returns, where maybe the healing's a flat like 5 plus D10, so you in theory have effectively baked in a useful 6 uses into that, where you could keep on healing, but the healing might actually not heal at all.
So on that, with the exhaustion system, where did I put that? Here it is. Or is it? Where did I put it? Oh, yes, it is here. So there is already that built into the exhaustion system. At 4 points of exhaustion, you get a -1 die to all rolls. At 8 points, -3. -5 at 12, -7 at 16, and -9 at 20. If you go to 21 exhaustion points, you are incapacitated until you reach 0 again, outside of storyteller intervention. You do recover 2 points of exhaustion per long rest. So this is basically the equivalent of a diminishing returns kind of thing.
Upon initial listening to that, I feel like the recovery is way too slow.
Well, this is for healing outside of resting. A long rest, you just go back to max health. We're gonna go with that kind of system.
Yeah, but I would probably think, especially if you want to utilize the exhaustion system as a way of doing healing for essentially a support character, then I would almost reckon make that 2 points of exhaustion per day, so you're essentially getting a dice back per day. Or per long rest.
So you already recover 2 points of exhaustion per day, or per long rest.
Yeah, I'm saying make that 4.
Oh, you regenerate 4 per long rest?
Since at 4 points you lose a die. Like, I would imagine that every long rest you would reduce that dice penalty by 1.
Hello, Merle.
Just kind of making a point there, if let's just say I learn a healing beam move. If that healing is going to be based off of exhaustion, then effectively, if you get 4 points removed per long rest, or at least as the system exists right now, if I get 2 points of exhaustion removed per long rest, then I can effectively only use that move twice per long rest, or else it's going to start getting very debilitating. Obviously, you might be intending to have multiple long rests between a big combat, but I think actually just taking that dice penalty and just making you recover effectively, remove one of the dice penalties per long rest might be a little bit way to balance it. But that's kind of also a playout system, and I'm also trying to think of alternatives for a healing move that doesn't necessarily use exhaustion, because it feels like that's a very different system that I don't think I necessarily want to tap into without some revisions.
Well, I will also say that as far as healing goes, they do have, every Pokemon, every character, regardless of Pokemon, Digimon, etc., they do have the second wind system that they can use. Where they can, instead of having a dedicated healer that's just sitting there racking up those exhaustion levels, every player can heal themselves using their vigor and willpower, and incurring exhaustion themselves. So it's not just on it's not just on the cleric to be sitting there keeping everybody alive, building up those exhaustion levels. Every player it can be spread out amongst the players.
Yeah.
Then what would be the point of the healer? Why would we choose the healer over healing ourselves?
As far as that goes, I was thinking just 1 point of exhaustion per heal instead of the 2 that they suffer for using the second wind.
So they would have a special trait that would allow them to heal easier.
Well, not a trait, it's just part of the move itself. It's like every time you use a healing move, it would cause 1 point of exhaustion.
I feel like I might open a can of worms here, because I'm definitely kind of feeling where Raigon's at, because, some party compositions, they do well when everyone's kind of a jack of all trades. So, maybe you have a paladin and a druid and a ranger in there that, maybe the paladin, does a lot of the healing at times, or maybe the druid does, but maybe the paladin and the ranger can step in. So you're spreading that healing around. But some parties prefer to have, barbarian cleric. So the cleric is the one who's pumping out all the healing, and basically if the barbarian goes down, then the party is screwed. And I think allowing that kind of flexibility in your party composition, or at least in this case, how your team builds out their movesets is important. And the idea that popped in my head, that I don't know if it's good or bad, but what if there was the ability to push a move? So let's just say, I know, Fire Blast, and it has a set amount of damage that I can do. Maybe some of it scales with one of my attributes, or actually with this system, of course, it will scale my attributes. But what if I decide, this needs to be the Fire Blast, because if I don't land this Fire Blast, or it doesn't do enough damage, then the big bad evil guy is going to take out my friends. So I could push that and basically put all of my will and energy into that, and that gives me points of exhaustion.
I really like this idea.
That way you could actually have a healing move that maybe a dedicated healer or self-heal could actually basically spam that, but still tap into that exhaustion system when they okay, no, Jet, you are on 1 HP, you need to be healed to max now. I'm going to give you everything I got to heal you.
I really like the idea of this overcharge system, utilizing the exhaustion. I really like that. I still want to keep it at 2 points regenerated per long rest.
And I think that's a playtest thing.
Yeah. So far, We've not run into an issue with that. But at the same time, right now, we don't have much that we can actually utilize it. Right now, using your willpower for a reroll, using your vigor for a healing during a short rest, and using them together for a second wind are the only ways to incur exhaustion.
Yep, and
But I like the overcharge and ability idea. That is a really fun idea.
Yeah, because I feel like yeah, because I feel like, as a player, that would actually allow you to kind of like tap into that exhaustion system a bit more. Because like, especially from like some of your other tabletop systems, like, exhaustion doesn't really come into a factor too much. But you also don't capture that mechanic very easily, increasing the power of the ability, or just, lining up that perfect shot. Also, I'm just going to make a note just down here for future reference. Just on the idea of maybe we revisit how much is recovered in the future.
I will say, I think part of the trouble right now with actually affecting the exhaustion, having a huge effect on exhaustion right now, is with current functions, the willpower is limited. There isn't really enough willpower that you could go over what you would regenerate.
Wait, what?
Well, that it's hard to make a good judge right now on exhaustion, partially because with limited amount currently, you really can't do more than well, I guess you could if you were vigoring and willpowering. But it's kind of hard at the moment to really go over what can be restored in a night's rest because of the limited resource. But
yeah. That is something that is going to be... That'll be something that we will definitely need to revisit later on. Right now, none of our games currently have enough stats to actually even consider revisiting it at all right now. Because we haven't been able to see it be a thing yet.
I just had a thought adding on to this overcharge system that I think you might like how nicely it plays. What if your overcharge was limited by either your vigor or your willpower? So let's just say I have 2 vigor. I could overcharge my ability by 2 dice rolls.
Hello.
But... Howdy.
All right.
Oh, it's an arrow.
Hey there. So,
hello.
Moving back a bit, we're going to keep it at the regenerating 2 points of exhaustion per long rest for now. Until we actually get to a point where we start seeing the effects of exhaustion. Because right now, you don't see them until you get 4 points of exhaustion.
Yeah.
As for healing, I think we're going to start it at 1 point of exhaustion per healing effect. I don't think I want to limit it outside of just the exhaustion mechanic itself. Again, it'll be something that we play test and see how it actually feels after we actually get into it. And then in regards to the overcharge mechanic, I think we will limit that to the vigor stat, because I do like the idea of giving vigor some more use outside of... Because, like, willpower, you can use that to reroll.
Yeah. So here's my
whereas-
proposal. So with the overcharge mechanic, you would gain an extra number of dice equal to your vigor stat, but you also gain a corresponding amount of exhaustion points. So if I have 2 dice, I can overcharge, or if I have 2 vigor, I can overcharge by 2 dice, but I'd also gain 2 points of exhaustion. I could, if I have, let's just say, 5 vigor, I could choose just to overcharge by the 2 vigor, but I could also max out at 5 and gain 5 corresponding amounts of exhaustion. So, I could do a big overcharge, but I gain more exhaustion.
I am thinking that for the vigor, for the overcharge, you use 1 point of vigor, and then you can basically spend your exhaustion in order to add more dice. So if you wanted to, use a point of vigor to add 20 dice to a single roll, well, that's on you. It's going to take a while for you to recover that.
But hey, I
But-
just put a hole through the BBEG's head.
Exactly. I am liking that idea a bit more because a single die for a single point of vigor feels a little underwhelming of a system.
Oh, yeah, no, I was my brain was thinking along the lines of like, okay, hey, something that scales with your power level. So, maybe early on it's something that like doesn't really impact too much, but like, you can gain higher amounts of overcharge as your vigor increases. But if vigor is kind of like a kind of a point, like willpower, then yeah, spending 1 vigor to overcharge makes sense.
Yeah, Merle, high cost but high reward. Yeah, I'm liking that idea.
Though, oh god, I'm just thinking of the moments right now where you have a move that has a possibility of missing, and it's like, I'm gonna overcharge so much damage, and it's like, you just have this huge fireball that's moving at 1 mile an hour, and then the big dragon's just like, I'm gonna step 2 feet to the left, and then it just goes into like obliterates a mountain behind him.
So, literally Dragon Ball Z it.
More or less. Like, part of me like wonders if like it should if it's overcharging an attack, it should also give you an additional accuracy dice if you're still keeping the accuracy rolling part of the system. Because yeah, I feel like having like a big overcharge attack that has the possibility of missing feels really, really bad for using the system.
So hang on. What this is reminding me of is in Legends Arceus, the strong and agile style stuff.
Oh yeah.
Using strong style will actually increase your power and accuracy, which I proved to a friend was true during a very desperate battle. It's like, I'm gonna strong style. No, it's gonna miss. No, and we had a small argument. No, I was right. Agile style makes you go faster, but it hits less and it's more likely to miss.
I did not know this, but actually is very, very cool.
Oh, you haven't played? Oh, you need to play Legends Arceus. It's good with combat.
I do need to play Legends Arceus. I need to do Legends Arceus. I also need to do like the Mystery Dungeon remakes because I've actually not played the original Red Blue.
Okay, I have a question.
What?
Can I send my copy to you?
I mean, if you want.
So, what I am thinking on the overcharge is that you can split it how you want. So, if you can put those points into accuracy, or you can put them into damage.
I think that actually is a really good call. You can basically be like, hey, I'm just going to get an extra dice pool. I'm going to put, let's just say, I'm going to take 8 points of exhaustion because I really want to hit this. I'm going to put 4 of them in accuracy and then 4 of them into damage just because I really want this to hit, but I also want to make sure it hurts.
I will say one thing that I am really hesitant about with this system is the one-hit KO moves. I do not like those being in here. Because, like, yeah, it sets the accurate... I'm thinking that with that, those probably cannot be overcharged.
I mean, there's literally no point to overcharging it. You know, you're setting it to 30 accuracy, and it's one hit KO. So like, you're putting a hard, firm rule set there where it's like, yeah, you can't increase the accuracy and you can't increase the damage because there's no point in increasing the damage.
You could also just put on a heavy drawback to their use in the first place.
That's the heavy drawback is also why I'm like, I don't want these systems to be abusable. It's why I'm so hesitant to change the exhaustion healing more than 2 points per long rest. Because it's one of those things that if you heal too much per long rest, what's to stop you from just, you know, overcharging constantly, and instead of it being this cool epic moment, you're just doing it every single battle kind of idea.
I mean, I personally am not opposed to the idea of like an overcharge. Hello, sweetheart.
Hello.
I personally don't mind the idea of like an overcharge being effectively used once per battle per character, because you know sometimes you got to make that decision.
I'm a puppy.
Sometimes you guys make the decision like, you know, hey, like, you know, it's better if I were just to exert myself a little bit here, but yeah, if I take like 2 points of exhaustion per turn, then like effectively my long rest recovery makes that a resource I can use, you know, effectively once or twice per long rest, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, because I personally feel like apprehension to a system being abused shouldn't necessarily mean it gets to the point where you just don't use the system. Outside of like, you know, basically the big bad evil guy combat, like, you know, it should really be used like maybe you come across a bunch of grunts and you decide, hey, like, you know, the leader's like a little bit more agile, like let's just toss a bit more of an accurate fireball at him.
Hello.
I say fireball and we gain Amos.
Hi, I will give you the fireball. Hello.
I was going to say that there's not a system out there that somebody's not going to find abuse in or find a way to abuse anyways. So I would put less emphasis on it, because then you're restricting your own system for the sake of a few people out there that are going to just be jerks.
Yeah, and
leave
I
it
feel
up
like
for a DM discussion.
Yeah, and like the way that I see it, like your exhaustion takes 10 long rests to fully recover from. So if you have a player that decides, hey, you know what, I'm going to supercharge my fireball, and give myself 5 extra accuracy dice and 5 extra damage dice, so I can just, you know, basically do war crimes. Yeah, that's going to be 10 long rests to recover. And I, like, if I was in a storyteller position, I would say, yeah, if a long rest is 8 hours, you're going to have to basically do 1 long rest per day, because you're not going to sleep for, you know, 80 hours straight. Like, sleep doesn't work like that. I'm sorry.
That is one thing that I'm planning to implement, is the one long... that will be a thing, is that 1 long rest per day, per 24-hour period.
Yeah, and it also...
Yeah, that makes sense.
Having... I feel like, and again, it kind of gives that trade-off, that necessary trade-off for something like something big risk, big reward.
But... Alright, so the way we're going to implement it for now, pending playtesting, you get 1... It'll cost 1 point of vigor to overcharge, thus limiting how often you can use it based on your vigor stat. And then you can, when you spend that 1 point of vigor, which will accrue a point of exhaustion by itself, you then can spend your exhaustion to overcharge an ability and put those put those extra dice wherever.
And I could see a very interesting scenario that I don't know how you feel about it, but I like it. Is let's just say you have 8 points of exhaustion. You have -3 dice. I could see very much a scenario where it's like kind of a do or die, and you decide, you know what, I'm going to use like my last point of vigor to overcharge because I need to like actually overcome this penalty of my own exhaustion, and like give myself like 6 extra dice and just like cancel it out because I really need to like pull through, and then like they just like keel over.
Yeah. I will put in there a note that your storyteller can allow you to go more than 20 exhaustion points, but that is a storyteller approved thing only. Maybe we'll allow them to spend HP as well for overcharge.
Yeah, I was actually kind of thinking that having HP might be more interesting because again, you are physically overexerting yourself, and again, with that kind of trade-off, like to actually try to continue to push it further, that risk of using health is something that it kind of gives it like also like a better way to like in character also have them act like other players to like actually see how much they're physically overexerting themselves, other than just pure exhaustion.
I like it. My only hesitation with that one there is that it kind of also plays into the overall healing discussion that we've been kind of like just ignoring the tangent and going down more tangents. Because like if I can use 5 HP to like overexert myself, then what's to say that the healer can come across and just heal me for those 5 HP so I can just constantly overexert?
That's what I was actually just thinking myself right now, which is, what was that? Boss? A player like suicide bombed you and then immediately replaced themselves with another character, therefore rendering all boss fights meaningless? What?
I was gonna say I wouldn't recommend HP anyways.
We'll just stick to exhaustion for it.
I could see it as an HP penalty as a special ability to certain moves, but it would be unhealable for a certain amount of time.
Yeah,
because unhealable damage is a thing.
Yeah.
Because, and I feel like with that kind of stuff, like it could,
No, I think it was a really good suggestion. Just got there so many like really cool ideas. It's like
I will remind everybody, I do keep an eye on the RAOW feedback channel, and I do refer to it quite often when I do sit down to work on RAOW. Like, I see all of your guys' suggestions on the weather effects, and they are giving me ideas on stuff. So if you have an idea at any point, I may not implement it exactly as suggested, but post it in there, and I will see it, and I will contemplate it.
Small weather warning, it's really hard as a DM to track that and keep on top of it.
The weather effects in this particular system, or at least the ones that we are documenting, are they're basically area of effect stuff. Rather than, it's more akin to like a wall of fire as how it works, rather than this is a weather effect that's ongoing.
Yeah, because like I know we kind of really want to go more into the healing discussion, but like in terms of like the weather effects, at least in my mind, they should be something that can both come from a player or NPC, but it could also just be a area effect. Like, okay, party, you enter a heavily polluted town. You will be under the effects of the polluted weather condition level 1. Though some areas might be level 2, but I will let you know if those are the case.
Yeah, that is absolutely something that storytellers can implement.
and likewise, like, there's maybe a grove that is just so naturally luxurious that you just heal. Like, this is basically like you will be under the blooming weather effect while in this grove, and you just heal while in here. Congratulations. Please just take a night off. Please stop hurting yourselves.
I got my first taste of the RAOW system yesterday.
What did it taste like?
Really good pancakes.
Ooh.
Wow. That sounds good. Can I have some, please?
No, it means the puppy just ate our homework.
No, what he's referring to is Amos wound up in Amos cameoed in the Last Hope, and he got served some pancakes. Really good pancakes, but it was a very basic taste of it.
Amos hasn't really had any really good food, so he's happy to have it.
Yeah. Food is very difficult to come by with Starlight.
And that's if you don't want like food that's gonna like kill you, like the alabaster gleam was given out.
We ruined the last food we got with the cake. Though before we keep on going down these wonderful tangents, Zim, are you settled with the healing as it stands right now?
Yeah, 1 point of exhaustion per use. Yes.
Cool. I personally
mostly...
disagree with that, but I am happy to leave that as is for playtesting. I'm just stating it for the record.
I mean, we could implement a limited number of uses per day. However, that's an additional thing for players to keep track of. And then
it's not too much more than, like, say, your average mage or warlock or something with their spell slots. I can't imagine it'd be that difficult.
It's also a matter of figuring out how many slots, how many uses of healing abilities they'll have per day. And is it going to be per healing ability, or is it going to be a overall amount of healing? Like, you can have 5 healing moves, but only be able to use them twice per day? Or, like, how are we going to work that out?
I would personally say from my kind of, like, philosophy, healing, like, using a healing move comes with a trade-off. Because if you are healing, you're not doing damage. So if we come across, like, either a group of bandits or a big dragon, there's that kind of round-to-round math of, okay, can Jet last another turn without going down? Okay, I should heal as opposed to trying to do more damage, because either, I can...
Real quick, I want to insert here. My biggest concern isn't so much combat healing as it is out of combat healing. Because if we don't have a limit on it, why can't they just be like, okay, guys, we're in the middle of this dungeon. Yes, we're being chased. But I'm just going to quickly heal everybody back up to full, and we're good to go. No need for rest or anything. Let's just keep going.
How does the magic system work to begin with in this game? It's based off Pokemon with PP move, or amount of times you can use a move a day, right?
No, we do not have a limit on how many times you can use a move.
I would marry it up with whatever your limitation is on magic then. Or
We
move
don't
views.
we don't have such a thing. You can use your moves as many times as you want per day.
Yeah, and it works well for a system like, okay, you know what, I'm going to use flamethrower because hey, you know, just saying hey, you can only use flamethrower 5 times before you can stop using it can quickly run into a situation where I have nothing to use outside of like looking heckin' adorable. It's super effective.
Is there no default moves that people automatically have and they utilize?
There
Like,
will
like-
be. So I am going to implement a combat maneuver system. I'm still workshopping the exact naming on things, but that one will have a thing called strike, which is a very basic. Like for those that have played Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, strike is basically what you get when you just hit A.
Like it's like kind of like that check animation that they do, right? Like they just like it's not like a tackle, but like something similar to that.
Yeah.
Or like a version of it.
It'll be weaker than a tackle.
Yeah, I kind of want to agree having some sort of limitations because if you have moves that are kind of with unlimited outside in combat, I mean, it just feels like having limitations outside of it doesn't really make sense. It's like, so I feel like maybe some sort of limitations during, in combat, and it kind of can be since essentially with moves they have, essentially if moves have unlimited, right? They can be used anytime out in combat, so it also translates outside of it as well. So I feel like having some sort of limitation, not like a heavy limitation, but just some sort of like maybe something that either it costs something or some sort of way to kind of manage how many times you can use it or when you can use it will help kind of prevent the whole I can just use heal and outside of combat as many times as I want. So,
Alternatively, as a suggestion, you could use some moves that are the weaker and the baseline ones of any less or line move or move of lines, just treat them like 0-level cantrip spells and have those infinitely. But things like healing or bigger, stronger moves put limitations specifically on them.
Yeah, and that was actually kind of like the basic idea around like, my initial overexhaustion idea where like maybe, you have like your healing cantrip that, I can like heal you a couple points here and there, and I can use that indefinitely, but if I wanted to get some serious healing in there, okay, exhaustion.
Yeah.
So like maybe the moves balanced around the idea that, I can spam it infinitely.
How I'm imagining it is and I'm just kind of like in a kind of like a graphical sense, like so you have your main energy pool, just kind of like I'm just kind of like as like trying to organize like with kind of with pools here. So you can do your main pool where you can use outside and inside of combat, which you can use moves as much as you want, but each of those moves either use certain of that main energy, or we put energy onto the amount of times that you can use of that said move of like each moves. So that's like the two main ways I can think of that like two main approaches for it. And I just kind of and I mean if we go for like that kind of like where kind of like energy and everything like that is implemented in essentially like for the characters themselves, like they could use that like kind of like that, I would say like a giant energy pool, but like throughout the whatever day or what they're going through, it slowly depletes, so they have to you have to kind of manage the whole energy.
Okay. I wanted to finish my thought without being interrupted.
Sorry.
Because essentially what I'm thinking about here is because we're kind of overcomplicating it a little bit. How I would probably do it is have your basic healing moves used infinitely, and any meaningful healing could be overcharged. And in the case point that you were looking at, Zim, that is a storyteller's discretion, because in one sense, it's going against the spirit of the encounter. If you decide, hey, we're in the middle of a dungeon, and I'm just going to spam this level 0 healing spell over and over again until everyone's up there, no, you can only probably cast that maybe 3 times before you start hearing like the monsters from the next room start coming over because they're sensing the commotion. I feel like a lot of that can probably just be solved by storyteller intervention.
However, that requires that the storyteller actually have monsters in the next room to start coming over. Like if they just wanted traps in the next room or something, like.
Well, but that's something that's not too unfamiliar in a lot of dungeons where you randomly roll like every 15 minutes or whatever, and you just sometimes get a monster. So the DM can just spawn monsters wherever they want if they really wanted to.
Yes, they can. However,
please finish.
A round is... I'm still debating if I want to go with the Pokeroll system where it's 10 seconds per round or go with the more standard of 6 seconds. And so you're using that healing move, 10 times or 6 times in a single minute. And when the max HP for a fully fleshed out character is 50, you can get a lot of healing done unless it's just a single point per use, in which case why bother even having it in the first place. Part of why I'm hesitant to put limits on moves as a whole is because, one, that is a lot more calculations on how much each move is going to cost for XP. There are so many moves in Pokemon itself that have those power points, and if we go with just what Pokemon has, it's like, what's the point in even having the power points to begin with? Because how often do you even run out of power points in Pokemon? Yeah, the higher, the more powerful moves, yeah, they do have, like the one-hit KOs that have only 5 power points. Those ones, yeah, those are limited and such, but the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games, yeah, I've run out of power points a lot with those, but those are only after very, very long dungeons.
Yeah. Regular Pokemon's much the same. I mean, if you're going a long time it can be, but it's very easy just to walk out and go back to a center, so not often at all.
Yeah, I would probably say, like, my gut feeling is that let's not put a limit on the healing at this time. I think the only way to actually see how broken the healing moves are in practice is to actually let them play out and let them be broken for the early iterations, because the pattern that I'm noticing is that we're trying to come up with increasingly complex or debilitating ways to actually limit their usefulness. That might just not make them viable at all.
The problem is that if you don't limit some of these things, you're going to deal with what I deal with the spell mending, where somebody's got a ship that has 130 points of damage and they just spend 2 days mending it instead of the intended thing of going out and buying the supplies to fix the ship, which I ultimately made my players do. But mending is an incredibly broken spell in Pathfinder. You can just sit there and, if you have the time, repair anything.
I've used that myself. The only, I know our Rooms and Reptiles campaign, we literally were doing that ourselves as well. We had an airship, and the only times that Dova, the DM, could stop us on that was when he made a giant fucking hole in the side of our ship. And, well, it made small damage meaningless, and he had to really pull out all the stops to make a reasonable, huge hole in the side of the ship. And even then, we were still able to come up with explanations on how to fix it.
And then there's what was done with Ascent to Ascend, which started out in D&D at the time, but it still applies, which is, rather than it being things that were just quote-unquote broken, there were actually missing pieces of the ship that had to be replaced. You can't fix what isn't there.
Pretty much what I had to do to my players was tell them, unfortunately, the wood is beyond the spell's use. You have to go and get replacement wood, and then they just cast the spell instead of spending the money to have their ship fixed properly throughout the entire campaign, which was fine. They were buying the wood. But you're going to run into the problem with any of the stronger abilities either. If you're doing Fire Blast, for instance, which is a high power move, there's nothing stopping somebody from just walking around and using it nonstop. So
it is. So the damaging and such moves, yeah, those are something that's going to be just... It's kind of that difficulty where, yes, we can limit it, but then, you know, in this system, we don't have the fighter to fall back on. We don't have the barbarian. You know, when the wizard runs out of spell slots, they're useless. Well, at least in... outside of 5th edition. 5th edition, I really like the cantrip system, but the cantrip system, those cantrips get more powerful as you get more advanced in your... They stay relevant even in endgame. They are still very valid and viable options even in the end game. But even D&D, even 5th edition, does not have unlimited use of healing magic of any kind. The only thing that they have is, I think it's called Spare the Dying, and all that does is keep you from dying if you go down. It doesn't actually bring you back up, it just stabilizes you. And there's a very good reason for that limit. Because if a DM wants to put you into a long-term dungeon, to put this into another perspective, like going back to like what Rygon was saying with the monsters in the next room coming to investigate the commotion. If they were close enough to hear you healing people after battle, then why weren't they close enough to have come and helped their fellow monsters in the battle to begin with? Whereas with, like, the typical thing with dungeons in D&D and Pathfinder, you don't really have to worry about wandering monsters unless you settle down to rest. Because resting takes an hour. And that's a lot more time for... That's a much more reasonable amount of time for monsters to have wandered around and then come across your party in the span of an hour versus the span of a minute or two. Recoil mechanic, where certain abilities can't be used back to back, you must use a weaker or different ability. I mean, that's a possibility, Jits, but I don't like that either, because that's an odd limit to me. Like, we could go with a mechanic where you can use healing moves a certain amount of times per day without incurring exhaustion, but beyond that they do. Tiberian, as far as that goes, I'm not worried about people being able to use their big moves back to back. I am not concerned about that. Because while, yes, the players can do that, so can the boss. It's just healing itself that if we remove the... If we have no limit on healing, then damage becomes moot. The grind of a dungeon becomes meaningless. Even with a, even when you do have a, even when you do have a system like 5th edition has, where you heal you go back to full HP after a long rest, which I'm still playing around with that idea. Going with that sort of mechanic runs into that issue that I've seen quite a few times, where it's like, okay, we just settle down and rest for 8 hours, and we're back to full fighting force. We found ourselves a hole to hide in, and the monsters don't find us. Cool, we're good to go. Crickets.
I get where you're going with that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I'm taking a look at the Pokeroll system as a means of inspiration, because I want to understand. Okay, well, hey, how did they decide to approach the healing problem? And actually, it's very interesting. They don't specify which one it is, but like I take Heal Pulse for example. It has an accuracy check. And the effect is one ally, basic heal, if successful, spent 1 will point to activate. So they are using that kind of either will point or exhaustion system to go in there. So I think, yeah, let's try it as point of exhaustion and then playtest it and see how it feels.
Yeah, from what I forget the exact conditions for recovering will points in Pokeroll, but if I recall correctly, it costs experience.
Recovering will point?
Yeah.
Will point or willpower, that's just a day's rest. A long rest.
Okay, so basically the same as, okay.
Yeah, so, well, actually, I never said this because you guys were always talking, but your exhaustion kind of reminds me of willpower. Just different. Okay, like technical points, mana, it's the same system, but somehow different. There's always a different flavor to it. Why is Nintendo... Oh, right. Yeah,
Funny
Marvel's
enough,
right.
I am on the page in Pokeroll, because I had it up. I happen to be on the page where the next page from where the heal was. The healing stats were. But yeah.
And actually, I'm very curious how they define basic heal, because I also looked at soft boil, for example, so that was another move. And it's the same things. Basic heal, if successful, spend 1 will point to activate. But what defines a basic heal?
Basic heal, I'm actually on that page right now. Roll dice equal to half the Pokemon's HP.
Really? Huh. I thought it was basic heal was just 3 HP.
That actually sounds...
No. There's a maximum... You can heal a maximum of 3 HP per round.
Huh?
Yes.
I mean...
In Pokeroll, you can heal a maximum of 3 HP per round. They say this is because medicine and healing moves need time to make a full effect on your wounds. I personally don't care to go that route. If you want to burst out a huge heal, go for it. But at the same time, like, basic heal is dice equal to half the Pokemon's HP. High heal, roll dice equal the Pokemon's full HP. They missed a 2 in there. And then you've got fixed heals that just heal a flat 2 damage. Or whatever it's set. But yeah, they've got a resource for healing moves. Every system out there for forms of healing that I have seen, there's a lot of systems out there. I have seen quite a few of them. But any form of healing has a resource tied to it for a very good reason. Even if the normal moves have no limits on them. Like Pokeroll, there's no limit on how many moves you can use. D&D, there's no limit to how many times your fighter can swing their sword. In a day, at least. There are limits on spells, but in this system, everybody's a spellcaster. Literally everybody's a spellcaster, so there's no reason to limit the moves. Because everybody's got access to those big bad moves that you do. Whereas in, D&D, you've got your fighters that don't have spells, and then you've got the the random orc army there that also don't have spells. Granted, in D&D, just about everybody has access to spells if you go a certain route, but that's a whole other part. That's a whole other thing altogether.
Or shape of spells or shape of spells in the case of the Battle Master and with fighters.
But this one, everybody's a spellcaster. I see no reason to limit spells. Especially not unless we go a route where they are severely limited, because let's face it, how many times do you actually get into battle in a single day in any tabletop game?
Depends on who's running.
It does depend on who's running, but the vast majority of them, you might have one battle per actual in-game day. And if that's a particularly grueling battle, the players just sit down, set up camp, and rest. Because that's also a different thing about this system versus Pokemon Mystery Dungeon and the Pokemon games themselves. With those, you either have to use items or go to a Pokemon Center, or back to town in the case of PMD. Well, to be fair, Tiberian, most of the time, combat takes an entire session. So a lot of storytellers avoid that. They'd rather roleplay. And I'm okay with that. But either way, when you don't have a limit to how many moves you can know, what's the point in even limiting the moves, period?
Hey, Houston.
Hi.
Hello.
But I think ultimately, because we are going around in circles, I think we have temporarily solved the problem. Gain a point of exhaustion to activate the healing ability. Done.
Yes.
Because I see your point now, and then, listening to this, I can kind of understand where the bounds of the system comes in. So I think the solution as is suitable until playtested. because right now I feel like we're beating a dead horse, and we can talk about other cool, exciting stuff like weather that we started the conversation with.
Yes,
Yeah.
very nice. It's sunny here and weathery and so on and so forth. And fish not biting my rod.
How goes your weather?
Completely derailed. That's how it goes. We got off onto talking about healing, which in turn talked about exhaustion, which in turn talked about all sorts of other stuff.
Overcharge your ability.
Welcome to the D&D rabbit hole. Or in this case, the RAOW rabbit hole.
I think it's more just the development rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Okay,
you
at least
said
we
it
didn't...
wrong. It's RAWBit hole.
Okay, look, at least we didn't refer to it as the RAW hole.
I'm sorry, Zim.
Are you?
No. But I'm gonna act like I'm sorry so he feels better.
Also, I don't know. I don't know why on the overlay, like, you know, you and Arzi are between Avi and I, and like our names are side by side on Discord, but we're separated, and it makes me sad.
You will suffer.
No.
No. I will refrain from saying boss quotes.
How are you doing, Rugon?
No, I'm alright.
Good.
I say you don't need patience, but
I need some more water. I will be right back.
Hydrate.
Get that water. Get it.
Vector, you surf.
Water. No.
Drink the water. Oh, well. Now you're an otter.
Oh no, you drank the otter water!
The water.
I mean, is this a problem? I don't think this is a problem.
No, this isn't a problem.
Oh crap, I think I just drank Vector.
Wait.
Alright.
Well.
I think for the moment I'm going to switch to just watching from chat. So, I'll talk to you guys later.
Bye,
Take care.
Take care.
I'm gonna take this chance to make dinner.
Alright. Yeah. Be back. Well, anyway. Bye.
Bye.
See you, peeps.
bye.
I missed them already.
I'm upset. I'm upset. I am visibly upset.
Hey, Dart is next to Vector.
What? No.
This feels off. For some reason down here with this exhaustion title, it feels so much bigger than up here. I don't know why. There. That'll fix that a little bit.
have? Wait. Duh. I'm. Ugh. Imagine fishing the wrong spot because you were one step ahead.
Yeah, I've decided to remove this ranking up moves thing, because we do have an actual mechanic for upgrading moves now with XP. So, not much point in keeping that anymore. We'll leave this as is for now. I am going to make general notes about the overcharge system.
Okay, so you want to go there. Nope, not that one.
Alright, I included the overcharge system. I'm gonna note the healing. Actually, overcharge should really be under combat. Well, no, because it can't apply to anything else. You know what, we'll just make an other rules section. That'll work. Until I find a place to put them. I do things.
Duffins cheered with 200 eggy bitties.
I do things. Thank you so much for those biddies. I think that combined with other biddies that have been given will get us another point for September goals.
Yay!
By the way, Seda?
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you want to do power wash, I am good to go ahead and move over to that. Just let me know.
Will do.
Kind of infrastructure there. Oh, thank you. I do things.
Maybe something we could do is allow the option of the exhaustion point applying to, it'll be an optional thing, but the healer could say heal the, I'll just use barbarian for sake of an example. The healer heals the barbarian, and then the barbarian can choose to take the point of exhaustion instead of the healer. What do you guys think of that mechanic?
Heal. Being
Personally,
healed makes you exhausted.
Personally, I'm all for letting letting sleeping dogs lie. Just kind of seeing how the stuff before that was discussed, see how that plays out before trying to change it again.
Fair enough.
It's not to say that it's a bad idea. It's just that I don't know if there's really any room for change until we know what needs to be changed.
I'll have to agree.
I got my heavy coat on. I need something to smuggle.
Noodle the noodle.
You know, my mood's gone down.
No. Emergency snuggles, go.
Gab, I do more than pet the puppy. I snuggle the puppy.
Pet the Raygun.
Oh.
Raygun is good bean.
Airdrops to fluffy rock rubs. No, take that 3.
3.
Yeah, chat exists, you know.
Ruler, owner. I don't think they have a ruler or owner.
They don't have a ruler. Well, how do they measure things?
Right. I don't think it quite went in step with what you were hoping for, Gab. You were curious? Oh, I see. Well, if anyone would like to help me out with my thing over here, I'd appreciate that.
Your world building?
Yeah. I like having things to bounce ideas off of, or for people to introduce their own ideas.
Ow!
It's difficult to get anything written down, especially with my ADHD being unmedicated right now. Shoot, did I write down? Damn it. No, I didn't. Did I write down the major clans? What was that, Gab? You want to join voice? I think that's what he said.
I mean, Gab's got access to this channel.
Yeah. Governments. I know we did come up with a government of sorts. Where did I put it? Where did I put my government?
I'm sorry, I was hungry. Would you like it back?
Head of the council. That they make so many objectives rather than destroying the opponents, cutting off resources, trade, turning them against each other. It's cool. You want to add too much to gaming focus? Oh, okay. Sniffle.
Gamer focus. Is that all what we're doing now? Just too much gaming focus? Gamers? Got your gamer hydration?
Your gamer subs. That's like the new thing going around, I've noticed.
Yeah.
Okay, Zim, give me about 5 minutes. I'll be ready to start.
Alrighty.
Gasp. Imagine doing a dual stream.
Well, Seda's not planning to stream today, but yeah, we're gonna do some PowerWash Sim.
Nice. I was gonna do something today, but someone I was new Baldur's Gate 3, but someone forgot the memo was today, so we're just doing it next week.
I don't know, 500,000 is a good size for a city, I think. Probably.
For the Harith?
For the Harith's capital city, yeah.
They are in the kind of more medieval era?
Late,
not medieval,
or
but
not late, early Renaissance.
early Renaissance?
Uh-huh. It's the capital city is also where a lot of the major clans congregate together in order to hash out their ideas, ideals, and problems with each other and whatnot. So it makes sense that they each would have a lot of representation in the city as well. Combine that with the fact that it's also a major industrial sector, major agricultural sector, and one could easily see why a lot of individuals would want to move there. But that said, I don't actually know if 500,000 is a good number. Should it be higher? Should it be lower? I'm not sure.
It should be much lower. I just looked it up. So, in the Renaissance era, not the early Renaissance specifically, but the Renaissance period, only 9 cities seem to have more than 55,000 inhabitants. 5 of those were in Italy. Like, you can go your own route. I'm just saying,
well,
for...
I'm also thinking of it like this as well, though. Like, over in Italy, or over in all those places, humanity was far more spread out, right? So it makes sense that the cities themselves wouldn't be as big. But here in Hirasu, the species, like, they don't have as much of a wide space to work with. So it could be considered that they'd be more scrunched together, city-wise.
Well, part of that is also the availability. Oh, like GipGap's saying, it's a stable economy, abundant food. Like these cities that got to this size were only that size because they had plenty of food to go around. Whereas the Harith, they're in a desert. Food isn't exactly abundant. It's supposed to be much more limited. I would personally say maybe drop that to 100,000.
I am inclined to agree with you. What's that one city that all the Muslims pray to? Mecca, I think?
Mecca.
That's in a desert, right? What's the population of Mecca?
Well, right now it's 1.5 mil.
What was the population of Mecca in medieval times?
Mecca's population was only about 500 people during the Prophet Muhammad's time, which I don't know when that was in relation to the...
It says here, in 1900, Haji pilgrims traveled to the shrine city of Mecca by boat, ferry, horse carriage, and camel caravans. After crossing the desert ravines, they would enter the city and pass residential quarters which housed a population of about 40,000.
So still
And this was considered a desired location, yeah.
Yeah, still much lower than what you're thinking.
So I think
could
100,000
still
would be
say-
a good one.
Yeah, I could still say 100,000 is good.
Yeah.
Might still be a little on the higher side, but yeah.
Well, I want to keep it on the higher side because, again, it's a culmination of a lot of the major clans, major industry, major agriculture. It's got plenty of water, and there's plenty of living space as well. So it makes sense that the population there would be more burdening, or burgeoning, rather.
You know, I had a silly thought when I just stepped away for a moment.
So,
Abby's comment about airdropping 2 rock roughs and then 3 rock roughs being pointed upon there are 3 rock roughs. I'm like, wait, we're basically just that Zergling strain that spawns 3 Zerglings as opposed to just 2.
Speaking of burb, hi Gib-Gab.
Hi.
Hey, Gib-Gab.
Like you summoned me with like actually learning of population. Okay, so like you're running into 3
Oh, yeah,
issues.
that's what I want to talk about. That's what I'm working on.
Okay. You run into 3 issues because like you mentioned 3. I raised Paris as just like an example, but there's 3 very different places to mention. Mecca suffers in particular because it's literally the middle of the desert and there's nowhere in it. So like Mecca is not necessarily a place where a lot of people settle, but it is a very like pilgrimaged place. It's why you saw like relatively low populations had a lot of traveling, but not necessarily like a large city in and of itself. Well, at least in comparison to cities like Cairo, for example, which had the Nile to support it. And the main thing that would determine the size of a city would be how much surrounding resources are there to support it. So like how much can the population farm out in surrounding areas? How much rural farming is there around it to like feed into the city in terms of food supply or whatever resources it needs to produce goods. So you would see.
Well, I just want to add on to that. Florence and Venice were the 2 most populated cities in the Renaissance age, and they only reached 100,000. And like Venice especially is right there on the ocean. They had plentiful food, like so plentiful. That's why I still personally think that 100,000 is still a little too high for a desert location. But who's to say what else might not be going on there, you know? So I'm good to accept that. It's just 500,000 was definitely way too high.
Well, as a capital city for an entire species, I'm okay with leaving it out a little bit on the higher end.
Yeah, and Italy's not exactly like the best example. It's why I raised Paris specifically, because when I think of like what Raygon has for like 500,000 would be a little too much, yeah. But when I think of the city, like Raygon is saying, like I would imagine it doesn't have a lot of cities around it. You know, it's got a lot of more sparse area around it to support it, which is important because that's where you run into
Yeah, I said
and that's where we run into like Italy, for example, is not a good comparison because Italy had a lot of cities compared to other places, which subdivides the population between the cities a lot. So you have a less surrounding area to support a larger city than if you compare it to something like Paris, which had a lot more area around it to support it. And while there were like cities around Paris, Paris was not just like the central area for a lot of feudal France, meaning obviously it congregated a lot of power in there, and it had a lot of space around it to support it, and so it reached like I believe by 1600 it had 500,000 people. So like probably a more mid-sized city, something like London, still a relatively important city, but not one with as many resources around to support it, and still subdividing it between a lot of other cities, reached like 200,000 during this period. So the disparity size in city just depends on like how many resources you want the city to have access to, at least in terms of food stability, food supply. That's probably not Cairo or Beijing size. Probably larger than like a large Italian city.
Real quick, I kind of forgot to actually wrap up that recording here before I started switching things over. So, thank you everybody for joining us today for this Streamworks stream. Check out our website, zgfgaming.com. We've got links for our Discord, Telegram, Twitter, Patreon, and more. They're on the website as well as down in the description below through our link tree. Thank you to my patrons, tippers, and subscribers. It is your support that keeps this channel alive. I cannot do this without your guys' help and support, so thank you. Consider becoming a patron over at patreon.com/zgfgaming. It's one of the best ways to support the channel, though you can also do so by simply sharing the stream around, as well as subscribing to our YouTube, checking out the RAOW system that we've been working on, giving some feedback on it on our Discord, or just coming by and hanging out. But for now, thank you all so much for joining, and I bid you the most fondest adieu.